Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 93 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. In this episode, we are going to go over what is new for 2022, all the news and updates and things that we've got going on, and some goals that we're trying to reach as far as some rifles. And then also, we have a customer-submitted Q&A question. So we get questions all the time via email or phone calls, and some of them are great opportunities to talk about on the air because some of them are really common questions. So we're going to go over a great Q&A to kick off the new year. So I hope everybody had a great New Year's Eve. We're getting into January, getting around closer to shooting season day by day. So without further ado, here we go. All right, so before we kick things off too much, I do want to say a quick thanks to Krieger Barrels. Krieger makes fine cut rifle barrels made out of the great state of Wisconsin. And that is what we use for our long-range rifles here in stainless steel. They are world-class barrels, great company, and they offer what they call their Krieger Direct, where you can go on and order your barrel and have it in as little as 2 to 3 business days. So if you need a barrel and need it now, stop over to Kriegerdirect.com or Krieger.com today. We'd also like to thank Triggertech. Triggertech is also a proud sponsor of the show. World-class triggers, that is what we use in all of our custom rifles and really what we recommend to customers out there that are looking to upgrade. And so we have a lot of people bring their rifles through the shooting school and asking, hey, what do you think we ought to do? And one of the first things I'll say is look at replacing your trigger if your trigger is not of the greatest quality. So you can stop over and look at all the different makes and models they offer at Triggertech.com. That's Triggertech.com. All right, to kick things off, I do want to say thanks for joining us and thanks for making the podcast what it is. We have had a great year, and we have a lot of listener Q&As, and it's just been fantastic. In Europe, we're actually ranked in the top 10% or maybe even 5% in the shooting industry, which is awesome. We have clients from as far away as New Zealand and UK and Belgium and all these great nations and countries across the country that are tuning in. So I want to reach out and say thank you to all of you that are tuning into the podcast. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you really enjoy the podcast and the information that we put out there. If you like the podcast, please feel free to share it. If you know somebody that's in the long-range shooting or in the custom rifles, we really appreciate you doing that. It helps the show a lot. And don't be afraid to reach out to us if you have any questions. And don't be afraid to leave a nice comment on any of the podcast stations that carry us. So we really do appreciate that. Some other updates and news is we want to go over what's new for 2022. So we got some really cool things we've been working on hard behind the scenes, getting really prepped up for what's going to be a great year. So to start things off, I want to talk a little bit about what's new for 2022, some projects that we're working on, and then we'll go into some questions submitted by you, the listeners, that we want to go over here on the podcast that we think might be worthwhile just going over here as a group. So right out of the gate, what do we got going on for 2022? Well, the first thing we got is let's talk about our custom rifles. And two of the projects that are sort of near and dear to me that we've been working hard on over the last year is trying to come up with what we would consider ultralight, long-range, capable rifles. So, it wasn't uncommon years ago, and I fall into this as well. I mean, I've been shooting, I'm 50, so I've been shooting a long time, and a lot of times when you get into your lighter weight rifles or you're trying to get into that super lightweight elk gun or sheep gun or varmint guns here in the eastern seaboard, all of this stuff. When you go too light, or even 20, 30 years ago, what you would consider like your wood-stocked BDL, all these type rifles, which can shoot and can be made to shoot and are great platforms to do lots of really cool gunsmithing and tricks to them. But in the end, you really wind up with a rifle that, in most killing scenarios for hunting, 50 to 200 yards, maybe 300 yards. But when you start getting past that or out to that, things get sort of squirrely and questionable. And there's a lot of things that get involved in why this happens. But, that was really your typical hunting rifle. They usually didn't have, minutes or mils that were dialable. They didn't have first focal point. They didn't have all these really, advancements in barrel making and actions and stock making and all these things that led them well to really longer range shots accurately or really accurate. And then on top of that, nobody really wants to carry a 12-pound rifle around in the woods. I mean, I've done it, and it's tough. It really can be on a little bit of the miserable side as far as, just every day in and out of the Rockies carrying this extra weight. And then on top of that, I mean, I've actually carried my match gun out varmint hunting, which weighed closer to 16 to 17 pounds. And so at that point, I just climbed to the highest hilltop and would plop underneath a nice shady tree and watch for the woodchucks to come out and enjoy the rifle. But I've carried it around in the field as well. And again, we did that because these rifles are specifically made to shoot really long range. So we're talking, we were varmint hunting out past 1,000 yards, 11, 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards. And so we needed every ounce of accuracy we could get out of them. And, your ultralight type hunting rifles just didn't lend it there. So I want to talk with you about some of the rifles that we've been working on and go over what's new for 2022 and what's in the pipe. So we had Kevin Tim on the podcast last week in a great interview. If you get a chance and you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it. But he made a lot of sense when he talked about pack and pack weight. And he said, okay, hey, look, when you're going into these backpack type hunts, 35 to 40 pounds is really about it. And he even broke it down further, saying that, look, you should probably be 25 pounds for your pack and all of your gear and maybe 5 to 10 pounds for food and water and all the other things you're going to need there. Well, that leaves like 5 to 10 pounds for the rifle, or you're going to break that 40-pound mark. And going over 40 pounds on your pack, it's heavy. And so when you think about like what we would consider our long-range hunting rifles and the weights that they carry, till you add a real long-range scope to it, or what a current Collis would be, which is 33 ounces in itself, you're into this 9, 10, 11, 12-pound rifle. And we hear a lot back from clients, that say, hey, look, they're awesome rifles, they shoot great, but man, they sort of get tough carrying. And if you look at it from a perspective of pack weight, you're losing 25% or more of your 40 pounds just to the rifle. When, all these other advancements have been made to allow you to carry better stuff. So, for example, you can carry a tent and a stove that weighs 4 to 5 pounds total between the two of them. You can carry your food and water. Your packs are lighter. You've got freeze-dried meals, or you can make your own freeze-dried meals. You've got, all of this really cool hunting equipment that's layered, that's lighter, but also very warm. And same thing with, your mats and sleeping bags and all the other things. Even your spoons and silverware and the little bowls and cups and stuff that you'll cook in. But what do we do with the rifle? How do we get a rifle to fit into that 40-pound equation of a pack and still give you that 20 to 25 pounds for the pack and 5 to 10 pounds for food and water? And so that gives us an area of about 5 to 10 pounds to work with optics. And you're talking, he's talking about spotting scope or binoculars or rangefinders, all these other glass type things that you're going to take with you as well. That sort of counts in there. So we're really excited. What we've done is we've got, and it's already started, we got our line of rifles out with a couple chassis, and we got a couple more stocks coming on board that really are going to lend itself into this. But we'll start with the igniter action. And so with the new HNT 26 and the new XLR Industries 4.0 magnesium, we're able to use our heavy carbon fiber barrel, which is about 880 at the muzzle or so, really designed to shoot and mimic what our long-range rifles are capable of doing, but in a much lighter format, of course. We have gotten them down with the igniter action, which is our least expensive bat that we offer, turned 700-round clone with a 20 MOA built-in aluminum rail. Shoots the same as all the other actions, but just a different way it's machined. Saves a lot of machining time. So you get into that one, and we're getting the rifle down about 7 pounds. That is awesome because it's still a lighter rifle, but has the lesser expensive action and really allows you to get the other lighter components. And that's with about a, 17 to 19 inch barrel, depending on the caliber and what you want there. When you go with those same rifles and you upgrade to the Bumblebee actions, we're going to eliminate about 9 to 11 ounces. Now we're getting down to the 6 pounds, a couple ounce range. That is awesome. That is really awesome because now we can go with a scope, let's just say like a Leupold, just over a pound, and we're still sub 8 pounds for the total rifle with really good glass and optics. The other thing that we're doing to double down on this and sort of go over what our goals are for 2022 is we want to come up with a line of ultralight, very accurate, very shootable, long-range capable rifles. And we've been working with IBI, with their carbon, and some of the stock makers. We have another one that we're working with now that's more of a traditional type stock. But we want to break the 6-pound barrier and try to get into that 5-poundish range. We're close. We're within a couple ounces right now. And IBI's come out with a medium weight carbon that still allows us to shoot suppressed. So it gives us enough muzzle diameter that we can put suppressors on. And most of our rifles that we build, the customers will usually opt to put a suppressor on it if they can. If not, a muzzle brake or anything like that's fine, right? But even being capable to run a 5-inch or 6-inch or 7-inch suppressor to just take that roar out or that boom, right? So we want to keep the barrels thick enough that we can run suppressors for the customers who would opt to do that. Plus, it adds a lot to the rigidity of the barrel and the accuracy. So the lengths that we're going to offer range between 16.5 and about 22, 23 inches. And you should keep these barrels short for several different reasons. The shorter the barrel that you keep it, especially in a hunting weight rifle, it's going to be faster to point. It's going to be easier to move in and around things, especially when you go suppressed. And it's still rigid. If we go too thin or we go too long, you start to get a lot of that barrel whip and stuff that's going on, and that doesn't lend well to really long-range precision shooting. Short barrels are stiffer. Stiffer barrels will shoot consistently a little better. And in the long run, they're actually a little bit easier to machine or to cut the rifling. And the shorter that rifling is cut into that barrel, the less chance of, again, the curvature of the bore and everything is starting to get a little out of hand. And so the shorter barrels have a tendency to have straighter bores in them as well. So our goal for 2022 is, and what we're working on right now, is we still build long-range rifles. We still use Krieger heavy barrels, and we still have all the great chassis and everything that we build. But we're really working hard to get below 7 pounds, which is what we've done now. We're into the 6-pound range with the bumblebees. Now our goal is to take it one step further and try to still maintain that really high quality accuracy rifle and get below 6 pounds. That's our goal. And we're also working on looking at some other optics options that would be available to the customers that even take some more weight off the rifle, but still make it long range capable. So we're always looking at, look, these guns have to shoot, they have to track, we have to be able to dial. We got to be able to hold the wind in quick situations rather than dial. So first focal plane becomes a huge point. So we're looking at options there to see if there's anything else out there that we missed that's lighter than like the Leupold 3 to 18, but still be first focal plane, still have a good reticle, and still have the options of miniature mills. But so our goal for this year, try to get that really ultimate lightweight hunting rifle that allows you to pack more of the other important things in your pack to keep it collectively under that 40-pound weight mark, which we think is that's awesome. So if we can save you an extra 20 or 22 ounces, overall collectively, even over what a lighter weight hunting rifle would be, that's an extra pound, 2 pounds of equipment you can bring with you. And that means a lot. I mean, that could be some comfort things. That could be some extra food. That could be somebody carrying the first aid kit. And that could be, all of this other great stuff that's already super light that allows you to carry more in than you normally would, right? It allows you to bring more items that are both comfort items and safety items, but still keep reducing that rate, reducing that weight, reducing that weight, reducing that weight. So that's our main goal for 2022 is keep working on these really lightweight and what I'm hoping to be ultra lightweight, capable hunting rifles. So we'll keep you informed on that and how that's all going. We'll keep posting up some updates. We just finished an HNT that we'll post up with an igniter action. It's 7 pounds on the button with an igniter action. And then with the Bumblebee, of course, we're probably going to be in that 6.25 pound range, which is, awesome. Really, really awesome. So we'll post up some more stuff as we keep going. We did an XLR element with the magnesium chassis with a Bumblebee and an 18-inch barrel, and it broke the 6 pound mark. It was just under. So we're so close and dancing around that we're just trying to have the line consistently there. But man alive, it pointed so nice. It had a nice weight scope on it. So with the scope and all, still super easy to point, super fast, super fun. I mean, it was just amazing to pick it up and be like, oh my God. When you look at the rifle at a distance, you're thinking, oh, it's a tactical rifle because of the chassis and the heavy-looking barrel and all these other things. And this is our heavier carbon barrel, by the way, that was on this rifle. And then you go over and you pick it up and you're like, whoo, that's light. So we're working on that. So let's get into some questions that had been submitted by listeners over the last couple of weeks. I said I would read a couple on the air. If you heard your question being read, if you email us, it's contact@wolfprecision.net. And tell us, hey, that was my question, because we already have your email once. We'll send you a T-shirt, a hat as our gift to you, or saying thanks for tuning into the podcast. But you got to email us. All right, so the first question that we have submitted here is by a customer named Gary N. And Gary had a question on our reloading when we were talking about balance beam scales and really accurate powder charges. So I think in one of my reloading podcasts, we had talked about I would do a lot of my load development, and I have made some super consistent low standard deviations on a balance beam scale. And he had asked, what other stuff do we use? What do we use now? Should I be looking at a balance beam scale, stuff like this? And so I just want to go over some of this with you on the balance beam scale, the pros and cons, and how we did it, and then maybe what we use now. So if you get a really good balance beam scale, so we used Reticles, and we had a powder trickler. And if you take your time, you balance it out, you zero it out, and you trickle your powder charges. So what I would do is I would throw my powder charges to just under my target weight. So let's just say we're trying to throw 41 grains of H4350 for a 6.5 Creedmoor. Well, I would try to, with a Redding powder thrower, I would try to throw just under 41. So I would try to throw like 40.2, 40, something like that. Not too close to where I'm bumping over, because then I got to throw that powder charge back in and rethrow it, but close enough to where I'm not turning in the powder trickler, which sets beside your scale, adding little grains of powder to get you up to where the balance beam would read 0. And what I found was I could actually reload really fast. I mean, it would take me an hour or so to throw 100, 200 rounds, sometimes a little longer. But the standard deviation and all of these other things for really high quality match ammunition was there. One of my proudest moments in reloading was I was out with a group of guys in Oregon. One of the gentlemen there was the president of Savage Arms, and they chronographed my 308, and my standard deviation was 1. Now, I will tell you that there was tons of luck in that. Like, it had to have been the I think it was 3 to 5 rounds, but my guess is 5, knowing the facility that we were at, but let's just call it that those were the 5 lucky out of the whole 400 rounds that were loaded that were the closest, and just happened to pick those 5, right? So there's always luck involved in this. I'm not going to say that we do that every time. But it was done on a balance beam scale. And, if you take your time, one of the things about removing all the electronics is, you can come up with a level of consistency. So I marked on my bench where that balance beam scale sat every single time. I outlined the footprint. And so I didn't have to worry about it setting in a different area, tilted or twisted or an uneven surface. And then I would balance it out perfectly with our measuring, our little powder scale cup that goes on top of the scale. So you balance it out and zero it. And then you carefully just put it on and off, make sure there's no grains landing on it, when you're trickling up. And then I had a Redding trickler that I would just turn, get it up to just under, and then I would just tap it with my finger, tip, 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 tip. And I would get 1 or 2 more grains to fall in to get that sucker right to perfect. And then I would throw it. If I went over, I would pull a little bit out and then put it back on and re-trickle it up. But for the guy that's going out and hunting, or the guy that's going to go out and shoot a couple matches a year, you really don't need to invest in a lot of really high dollar electronic stuff and automated this and automated that, because they break, they float sometimes. Your scales themselves all of a sudden go out of calibration, which, by the way, that doesn't lend to a lot of good things, because now you've got different charges thrown in and all mixed together once they're all cleaned and sorted out. So you can get in and make fantastic reloads with manual stuff. As a matter of fact, we have a reloading class that kicks off this Saturday, and I have all of that here. I mean, I think that's how important it is. So what we use now is prior to this, we had 4 Hornady electronic powder throwers, and we zeroed them out using the same weight, so they were all zeroed the same. And that's how we would reload for the school. And we had good luck for it, but keep in mind, we're reloading almost at a commercial level because of how much shooting we do and how much we do at the school. Now we have 2 auto tricklers that run simultaneously. They're capable of throwing, a charge every couple seconds each. And so we're able to keep picking up. So it's 2 scales rather than 4, throwing at about the same speed. And so there's less chance of the scales floating or having, one going out a little bit. And so that's what we use now. But I will tell you that I have had some fantastic luck with a Redding balance beam scale, a Redding trickler, and a Redding BR powder thrower. And they're here at our reloading class. I dug them out. I haven't used them in a while, but they're here, and we're going to demonstrate them for guys that are getting into reloading, that you don't have to go out and spend $1,000 plus on an auto trickler. You can go out and buy an entire Redding Big Boss kit with the balance beam scale and all that included in it for less than $500 and be making world-class ammo. So thank you, Gary, for sending that in. We really appreciate it. If you hear this being read on the podcast, send us an email with just a reply, and we'll get you out a nice T-shirt or hat. We have a question here submitted by a Mark B. Mark had sent us an email asking us about our cleaning regimen, but more importantly, what we do to clean our bolts and what lubes we use. So when we clean our rifles, we're using ThoroClean. It's sold by Bullet Central. This is a free plug for those guys. It's just really good product. It makes your cleaning time really go down. It's not hazardous. You can use a nylon brush, and it does a really nice job cleaning out the throat, which is where you can get a little bit of carbon buildup. So ThoroClean is what we use to clean our rifles. But when I'm wiping down the bolt itself and the bolt face and all of those areas, and even the chamber, so I'll go in and I'll use a chamber mop or something like that. I'll actually use Hoppies. And so I'll put a little Hoppies number 9 and a chamber mop, and I'll get in there. And I'm trying to get all the carbon and dirt and debris out of the chamber because it really gets mucked up. I mean, it really gets ugly in there. You get a lot of oil. You get like a little bit of carbon and stuff in there from the cases going in and out and being fired. And so I take a little bit of Hoppies number 9 and take that mop in there and I clean it out. And then once I get it nice and clean and with a couple patches, then I'll actually take some rubbing alcohol or isopropyl and I'll put it on a mop and I'll go in and clean it out to make sure they get all of the chemicals out. And then I'll actually go in with a little bit of gun oil and I'll wipe everything down again on another mop, but then I'll dry it. So I don't want oil laying in there, but I just want to put something back in to protect it. And I do the same exact thing for the bolt. Now, I do take the firing pin out when I clean the bolts and actually clean inside where the firing pin goes because believe it or not, you get everything from moisture to water and everything else gets in there, and that will cause your firing pin some issues. It'll get sluggish. That dirt and debris and dust, it can slowly build up in there, will start to slow down your firing pin. And sometimes even if you get moisture in there in really cold weather, will freeze your firing pin. And even with oils in super cold weather. So I take my firing pin out, and I wipe the entire bolt down and the bolt face with Hoppies number 9. And so I'll go through, and Hoppies does a great job of, cleaning off all of the carbon and everything that builds up in the bolt body. I do the bolt face really well, getting under where the extractor is at. And I'll actually take a Q-tip, and I'll put a little Hoppies number 9 and I'll get around into the corners of the bolt face. And I'm working in there to make sure that, any smeared copper, brass casings and shavings and stuff that happen to, from the firing process or from cases being ejected and extracted, that we get all that gunk out of there as well so it doesn't hang up a case or hang up your ejector button, which can happen. It will actually pin you get so much garbage built up on your bolt face if you don't clean it once in a while that there's always that small chance you could pin your ejector button back. So a piece of debris, carbon, whatever, starts to build up in there. And then when you compress that ejector button, the debris jams along the sides of it. So when you go to eject the case, you open your bolt up and the case is still hanging off your bolt face just off to the side a little bit. The ejector button is not pushing forward. And so I go through and I wipe all that really well with Hoppies and even with a Q-tip, get all that nice and clean. And then I'll go over the entire bolt body internally, externally with isopropyl rubbing alcohol to try to get all the dirt, debris, and Hoppies off of it. And then I'll use Milcom. Milcomm, Milcom. And you can buy that on Amazon. You can buy it through Midway USA, all of the major distributors. It's very expensive comparably to like old Hoppies gun oil and stuff like that. But I'll wipe the bolt body and such down with Milcom. I'll put a little bit on the firing pin and wipe it down. I don't goop it on there, but I'm sort of put it on, and then I sort of wipe it sort of dry on the firing pin. I don't put the firing pin in wet. But I do wipe the bolt body down pretty good. I'll put a couple dabs around and make sure I put a drop or two right where the camming is for the firing pin. So you'll see where your firing pin rides up back and forth on the back of the bolt body to get locked into the getting ready to fire position. So I put a little bit there. I put a little bit on the camming part on the action where the actual bolt cams. I definitely put it on the back of the lugs, the locking lugs of the bolt. And then I actually put a fair amount on the bolt body. And then right on the handle, where the handle rides up on the receiver, where it does that camming, I'll put a drop there. Then I actually put the bolt in wet. So it's got I'll use my finger with gloves on, and I'll wipe the oil around pretty good and make sure she's all lubed up pretty good. And then I'll put it in the action, and I'm running her back and forth after I clean the action, mind you, and I'll go over that here in a second. And then I'll pull the bolt body off, and then I'll sort of wipe it dry. One of the nice things about Milcom, if you wipe the bolt body down with rubbing alcohol, then you put the Milcom on, run it, and then sort of wipe it dry, it's still super slick. So the Milcom gets into the pores or however it does with the steel and has a level of lubrication to it without being wet, so you won't have dirt and debris sticking to it. Now, before I stick it in my action and do that, I do the same thing with my receiver. I clean out where the bolt lugs are at, where they lock up on the inside, so I'll get in there with my finger, or they make different tools. You can go in and clean the insides of the locking lugs inside the action, wipe all that area out. I wipe, again, with Hoppies. I wipe the inside of the receiver out to make sure I'm getting all the old dirt, debris, grime, all that crud out of there. Then I'll go in with rubbing alcohol on a piece of cotton or a really nice quality piece of ripped paper towel, like strip. And then I go in and I wipe everything down with rubbing alcohol to get all of the Hoppies out, as well as any little bit more dirt, debris. And that's the key right there, is because that's what allows the Milcom to get into the pores of the receiver and, again, make it super slick. So then I'll go in with Milcom on I have a pair of rubber gloves or protective gloves, latex gloves, and I'll put some dabs in the bolt bore raceway. I'll put some dabs, through the receiver, backward, where the trigger well is. And then I'll just take my finger and I'm just working it around in there to make sure I got oil on the raceway, the whole way back and forth, in where the bolt rubs into the receiver at the back and the front, and then as well as in locking lugs. Then I'll put my bolt in, and I'll work my bolt wet, and then I'll pull my bolt, and then I'll wipe the receiver dry, and I'll wipe the bolt dry of the Milcom. And man, you put that bolt back in, and you swear to God, it's lubed up like crazy. I mean, it's just like the bolt will run back and forth, but it's not wet. One of the things about running a wet bolt in a bolt gun, or making everything highly lubricated, is it's just a place where the next time you go out and shoot, for dirt to stick to. And then, when dirt and debris and that stuff mix with oil, it becomes a lapping compound, and you eventually start doing damage to your receiver. So I always do this step to make sure that it's dry. That way I got the lubrication part, but I don't have anything wet in there potentially attracting and sticking dirt, basically. So thank you so much, Mark B., for submitting that question. I really appreciate it. So another question by David B., and he sent us a question from Spring Creek, Nevada. And he was asking about reticles, and he had said, on the different reticles out there, how confusing some of them are. Like, you look at all the different reticle designs, and he was asking us our opinion. He says that he even finds some of the other, they just look so busy. Like, how do we decide on what reticle we use? Because when he looks at them, he's like, gosh, they're a handful to look at, especially when his key words was when you need to make a rushed shot, or for quick target acquisition, quick target shooting, like we would find in a hunting scenario, or like you would find in a match. So here's what I look for. Our Collis and now the new Leopolds that have come out with the new reticles, they are probably at the best they have absolutely ever been. So if you look at the Skimmer 3 and Skimmer 4, and then you look at the new MR1, I believe is what they're called, through Leupold, there's three things I like about them. Number one, they have a target dot in the middle. So a very fine eighth-minute target dot. What that allows me to do at longer distances, when I zoom into 18 power, for example, on a 3 to 18 Collis Leupold, I've got that tiny little dot that now I can see that I can float on targets at long range. And so you're no longer covering up a 20-inch piece of steel at 1,000 yards, or a 10 by 14-inch piece of steel plate you actually have this tiny little eighth minute dot. You can float it right on the center of that plate and you can hit it every single time. And that little dot allows you to do really nice precision work at 100. So doing load work and load development on low magnification scopes, you really do have to practice this, aim small, miss small technique, or you wind up with shots erratically opening your group up ever so slightly because that's all you can see. You can't see any finer than that. And so that little tiny dot, for example, we have a drill that we shoot at the school where we shoot some dots that are the size of peanut M&Ms at 100 yards. So if you picture what about the size of a peanut M&M, maybe a third of an inch or so, maybe a little less, and you can shoot them with a 3-18 Leupold or Collis with that little target dot. No problem at all. So that's one thing about them. The other thing that's nice about those reticles, a lot of times, so we'll talk reticles the second day. We at our long range shooting school, we go over fundamentals of marksmanship is what we hammer on the first day, right? Second day we start, in here in the classroom, we go into reticles and hold over and hold off and all the things you're going to get into with that. And we're going over the Skimmer 3 reticle. Now, this is important. And I'll show the Skimmer 3 reticle on the screen and the Skimmer 4 and the MSR 1. And the guys are like, wow, those lines are neat, but our scopes don't have them. And I'm like, yeah, they do. They're in your scopes. You shot that all day yesterday. The funny part about a really high quality reticle, especially reticle design, is it's non-intrusive when you're not looking for it. So a testimony to the quality of these reticles is how many times students have spent the first day shooting it and never even realized that those lines were down there. Like we're talking about a Christmas tree type reticle. It was so well done and so in proportion as to what a shooter needs it to be and non-intrusive that there has been many students that they are sitting here in class and like, no, I'm telling you, my reticle doesn't have that. And I'm like, they're shooting school guns. They all have the same reticle, right? And I'm like, no, I promise you, it's in there. And we'll get to the range and they'll be like, you got to be kidding me. I said, yeah. I said, that's the great sign of a high quality reticle is that it doesn't intrude. It's not popping out and confusing. It's not in there when you don't need it to be. It's only when you're looking for it, you'll see it. And so when I look for a reticle, I don't like the big grids. I like a very clean, simple reticle. And I find that the Skimmer 3, Skimmer 4, and the new ones from Leupold are at their A game right now because you can use them very quickly for holdover and hold off. You're not looking at like giant numbers and like counting 16 lines down, like 1, 2, 3, 4. When you're shooting and you're trying to pay attention to the target and the wind and all the other thing, now you're being distracted by counting lines that look like a grid square. It gets difficult. And then what normally happens, you go back to the target, you're getting ready to shoot, and you hold on the wrong line anyway, and you miss. Either your windage or your holdover is off. So those reticles are half mil going down and half mil left and right as you go down. They start to give you a little bit of windage, so you're not holding in what we call no man's land. But to answer your question is, I totally agree. I think there are a lot of reticles that were designed out there that are just way overboard. They look great on the computer screen. They look great in theory to everybody that designs them. But when you go out and start shooting them, they're just too much. They're too busy. They're hard to use. And especially in really fast situations where you need to go down and find 2.2 mils and a half mil left, you can go straight down, find that half mil left and shoot and hit your target. Not be counting down like, am I there? Am I at the right line? And that's distracting. And so thank you so much for submitting that question. That's how we look at it. And those are my favorite two reticles. I just tell you that we've had great experience with them here at the school, and they cover the ability to shoot small because of the target dot, so they've corrected that. They have the holdover, hold off first focal plane, but then they designed the reticle so well that the Christmas tree at the bottom really isn't even noticeable until you're looking for it to use it. And then when using it, it's nice and clean and slick. So if you get a chance, stop over and you can look at their reticles online for both Collis and Leupold, and I think they're a great design reticle. All right, so before we continue on, I do want to say a quick thanks to MDT. MDT is another proud sponsor of the show. Makes great chassis, again, including the new HNT 26, which we now have in the igniter coming in right at 7 pounds. And we'll post some pictures up of that on Facebook today, so if you get a chance, stop over to our Facebook page. It's Wolf Precision, and you can see the new HNT. We think it's going to make a fantastic option for a great world-class ultralight hunting rifles. So thank you, MDT, for being a proud sponsor of the show. You can stop over and see all of the great chassis that you can use to upgrade your rifle today at mdttac.com. That's mdttac.com. So another question that was submitted, and we get this one asked quite often, is the difference between a Tier 1 and Tier 2 build, and how do we order? So for 2022, if you stop over to our website, you'll see that the Tier 1 and Tier 2 build prices are there, and they actually both include something pretty cool. So we want to make sure that the guys that would like to come in and build the rifle, that we include some really cool stuff with it. And then for the people that are buying a completed custom rifle, we give them something pretty cool as well. So regardless of how you order your rifle, Tier 1 or Tier 2, they actually come with a lot of really cool things that we like to say that, hey, thank you for ordering a custom rifle. Now let us show you and teach you and just spend some time with you and the rifle. So in a Tier 1 build, what we offer, and again, this is at no charge, you can come in and build your rifle with us under our guidance. So from all the parts and components, this is what the system was designed to do. And we want you to be able to go home and either, change your calibers, do all these really cool things to your rifle as things and needs change. You can modify your rifle to fit what your current needs are. So if you're going after elk or you're going after coyotes, you can swap some things around in your rifle to change it. But then you can also actually build another custom rifle. Once you've attended our Tier 1 here, you can buy all of your components in what we consider a kit build, and we'll send it to you in a rifle case, and you'll reassemble your entire rifle just like you did under our guidance, which we find is pretty cool. And again, that's included at no charge. Also included in the Tier 1 build is we're going to take the afternoon at the range. So if you're going to take the time to come in, which we've had clients from all over the country come in and take our Tier 1 build class, is once they order their rifle and their last of their components are here, you're going to come in, you're going to build your rifle, and we're going to get lunch, and then we're off to the range. So we're actually going to take a couple hours in the afternoon with you and your new rifle to fit it, to get you zeroed, teach you all about it, really just make your first range experience a great one. We've had customers come in from California, Texas, Florida. We've had customers drive in from all over the country, Wisconsin, Tennessee. I mean, it's really awesome, and we really appreciate it. But one of the things I think, and one of the reasons why, is because they get a chance to actually be hands-on, build the rifle with us, know everything about it, and then we're going to go to the range with it. We're not just sending it to you in a box and saying, hey, good luck. The Tier 2 build, the difference between them is a Tier 2 build is a completed custom rifle. Now, we do have clients that do not want and have no interest in building a rifle. They're hunters, they're shooters, they're professionals. They don't have the time, or they're just not interested, and we certainly get that. So what we do in a Tier 2 build is that is a complete custom rifle built by us here at our facility, shipped to you, and in that we include $395 off our long-range shooting school. So you can attend our long-range shooting school with your own rifle. It's $1,495, and then we give you $395 off of that to come through and enjoy your rifle here at the school, go through everything there is to know about it, how to dope it, getting you a chance to shoot it out to 1,000, just really getting your feet underneath you with your new rifle. We just don't want to send it to you and say, here we go, good luck. We want you to come in and spend 3 days with the rifle with us, and we want to give you something nice in doing that. So basically, we're trying to give you what's actually over 20% off, almost 25% off our long-range shooting school with the purchase of the rifle. So we want you to bring it through, and we want you to come through and enjoy the rifle under our guidance, and we want to spend time with you with it. And so that's the difference between a Tier 1 and Tier 2 build. Another common question is, well, how do you order? And we do take the time on the phone. So if you call, I'll get on the phone with you. We'll spend some time going over the build spec sheets. You can also submit your order online. There's an order form on all of our pages. So you can go down to the bottom, fill out all the information, and then go through and select the core components that will come to us here. We'll send you out a build spec sheet, and that will be followed by somebody calling you and actually going over the spec sheet over the phone, answering questions, talking about options, all that great stuff. So eventually it always leads to a phone call. We want to talk to you, make sure that we get the build right and that it's exactly what you want, and answer any question you might have. These are pretty big investments, and so we want to make sure that A, you have a great experience, and B, that we get it right and that we get it exactly the way that you would want it, and that's really cool as well. Now, I do tell everybody these are still custom rifles. And so the lead times can range anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks if we have a lot of the inventory here. And for really customized stuff, it can take as long as, 3 to 4 months and sometimes 6 months, depending on what components we're using. And so we try to give you a good estimate. And now that we're in COVID craziness for components and lead times for steel for all the manufacturers, everybody's giving you predicted lead times, but they are fluctuating quite a bit, and everybody's sort of at the mercy at it. So we try to tell customers, here's about the lead time that we're at, but have a little bit of grace period in there. So if you're thinking of trying to get a rifle put together for this fall for hunting season, I would be getting the order in now. Don't wait till 3 months out, because sometimes it just happens that something got held up, the manufacturer didn't get the steel or whatever that we were waiting for those components in time. And then all of a sudden everything gets pushed back to us, and it always lands here. So anywhere that there's a shortcoming or there's a delay in a part, even if it's just one of the many parts that we need to build your rifle, it delays the entire rifle. So try to get your order in. If you know you want to do one and you have a specific need or a timeline, try to think 6 months, 8 months out. Give yourself plenty of time to get the rifle built and to spend time with it before you take off. Now on to some really fun stuff. So we've been posting some really cool stuff up on YouTube, and we've been trying to do a lot of training or reviews, and it's going to keep going, and it's going to keep getting better. Really excited about it. So I'm really excited to go out and do some shooting and doing some filming and teaching and going over some tips and tricks to, how do you shoot long range, and, how do you hold the rifle, all these little things that we get a chance to share, plus probably do some varmint hunting while we're doing all this, right? But if you get a chance and you're interested in this type of thing, we've been working on getting all of our entire podcast up on our YouTube channel, because there are people that will listen to us on YouTube that normally wouldn't find us or listen to while they're driving or don't listen to the normal podcasting stations. And so you'll see our YouTube channel. I think we're putting up about 4 every couple of days until we get caught up to our current podcast, and it'll just go to 1 a week. And in there right now, we're putting up about 2 videos a week that are actually on other subjects, and that'll eventually grow to 3. So if you'd like to see all the cool stuff we're working on, which one was bolt manipulation, another one that we're going to be talking about is how and why you would select between like the Collis 3-18 and Leupold 3-18. That's our 2 favorite hunting scopes. And so we just did a video on it talking about maybe why you should consider choosing one over the other. And that'll actually be posted up Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. So if you're interested, pop over to YouTube, look us up. We're Wolf Precision Inc. And if you really enjoy the content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That helps us a lot there as well, and keeps us going out and putting out more good content and trying to keep that in the works as well. So we're really excited about that. That's going to be a big goal of ours in 2022, is to have 2 or 3 videos up every week on really good content to try to help everybody get the most they can out of shooting. The last thing I want to touch base on before we wrap this podcast up, and this is a good one because it's really exciting to get into the new year in 2022. We're in our new building. It was quite a lot of work to get here, and lots of delays, of course, in construction. And, it is really awesome. I can't tell you how blessed and thankful that we are that we've gotten to this point, in our business. And it took us 15, 18 years to get here of just really hard work. But it's pretty cool to be sitting here in a little podcasting studio and working on the podcast and all the fun and exciting things that we get to do. And 2022 is looking to be an absolute banner year. We're really excited for it. So, and the other thing I want to touch base on before we wrap up this podcast is the level 201, 301 hunting class. We are going to have our moving target school along with a long-range shooting school right before it in Georgia. So we usually teach one moving target class a year, and it's held in Swainsboro, Georgia, because there's pits there, and this is a traditional way to teach movers, not a mechanical way. And I find that I can teach you twice as much, twice as fast using pits with people than I can in a mechanical situation. You can hit the mechanical one a lot more consistently and faster, but you don't learn the rhythm. And I think that's where the key is. So at the end of March, we have our moving target school that's going to kick off. You can go on our website and see that. It's Wolf Precision Inc. And then what we decided to do is talk to Eric, the owner of the range, and the 3 days leading up to the moving target school. So the moving target school is going to be March 26th and 27th of 2022. We're going to hold that once a year, limited sign up. But then March 23, 24, and 25, we're going to have a long-range shooting school in Swainsboro, Georgia, before the movers. So if you were ever interested in attending our class or attending our long-range shooting school and you're from the southern states down there, it's quite a drive up here to central Pennsylvania. We're going to bring the school down to you. It's going to be the same subjects at a great facility down there, and it's still limited to 5. And so we'll have one of our guys down there that we're good friends with going to be helping us. Eric will probably be there as well. But we already have 2 students signed up, so we've got 3 slots left for the long-range shooting school, and we're starting to take registrations for the movers class, which will be held at the end of March. Great time to go out and shoot. It's really nice weather down there, way different than here in Pennsylvania, and I always enjoy coming down. I actually camp right there at the range. You can camp with us. There's lots of great places to stay in the area, but I like to stay in the outdoors, so I'll be out there camping the whole week right there at the range. Eric has places you can put tents up, you can bring an RV, all that cool stuff. So looking forward to that as well. So if you have any questions or anything that you would like us to cover here on the podcast, I'm going to send this out here. Send us an email at contact@wolfprecision.net, and if we read it on the podcast, we will send you a t-shirt or hat as our gift of saying thank you for reaching out. We'll be doing another Q&A probably in about 6 to 8 weeks, so we're going to let some emails come through, and we'll try to select some of the better ones, and we'll do an entire podcast on Q&As by customer-submitted questions. So we'll be spending an entire podcast on Q&A on listener-submitted questions. Look for that in about 6 to 8 weeks. So we've got lots of time. Send us in some questions if you would like us to go over them on the air. We really appreciate that. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to a great 2022. Really excited for this year. It's going to be a lot of great shooting, some really cool traveling, different outdoor events that we're going to be doing, as well as some really cool projects that we're working on here in-house now that we're all settled into the new facility. You're more than welcome to stop by and see us. We're in Somerset, Pennsylvania. You can call in and just let us know you're coming, and then I'll try to make sure that I'm here to give you a little tour of the place and talk a little bit about some of the equipment that we use. But thank you so much for taking the time to join us. My name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you are listening to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.